sometimes for Moonduck stuff. That's about it. All right, I think we're ready to start. Let me just make sure that... Yeah, this looks okay. All right, here we go. Enable techies in captain's mode. I spoiled myself on this morning. Girlfriend said there was a patch, so I clicked on... I looked at the top Reddit post, and it was like one of the text things in there. My dog's annoyed, but she was licking her paw again. So I had to put the cone back on her. Okay, first creep wave no longer draws aggro on the side lanes until they meet the other wave. Okay. Interesante. I did hear, pretty much anybody in the pro scene has been hearing rumors that techies was going to come out. I don't know who I heard it from originally, but I think it was just a regular Dota person who heard it from somebody else. The rumor was that Pangolier was going to be put into captain's mode, and then the next patch techies would be put in. That's why people were expecting techies like 2 patches ago. So he was definitely delayed, but no surprise that he's in. I think they did the patch really early this morning because an Epicenter starting soon or something like that. I can't remember. But the first creep wave no longer drawing aggro on the side lanes is stuff obviously going to be about offlaners and other heroes pulling the creep wave to mess up the creep equilibrium. I kind of did this for my first time last night, and ever since then I have not done it again. And I never will, because it's literally impossible now. You can still block the wave, so there can still be things like clockworks and earth shakers and things like that that can still mess up equilibrium, or liches, for example. But we'll see how the pro scene reacts to this. It'll be interesting to see how this adjusts. Might still be hard for offlaners to get experience. I'm gonna sneeze. Oh, sorry, I've been sneezing a bunch today for some reason. Alright, Skull Basher now uses Mithril Hammer instead of Javelin. It gives plus 25 damage and plus 10 strength, and Bash no longer pierces evasion. Interesting. So, as a raw damage item, it's better. Before, I was thinking about this the other day, Skull Basher is just terrible damage-wise. Because the item is like, it was like 3,000 gold before, and it had a chance to proc for 100 magic. So it did the same, literally the same damage as a Javelin, except unless you're a strength hero, then you have 10 strength plus that. So it did 10 physical and 25 magic on average per hit. But that's not even true, because if you attack too fast and Skull Basher procs, then it's on cooldown until the next hit. So Javelin actually does more damage than Skull Basher does. It is a atrociously bad damage item. Now it's better, but it's more expensive, because it's going to cost you 500 more gold. So, I did not realize that Bash pierced evasion either. That was interesting. I wonder if it was the same for like Troll Warlord. I assume not, but maybe. So Abyssal naturally gets plus 25 damage. I'm kind of curious why they did this, I guess. But it was just so terrible as a damage item on any other hero. I guess nobody ever really buys the item anymore. There's just so many other better utility things. Like you can buy Bloodthorn or something like that. It's just is almost always better than that one. Hey. You whining at me? Maybe you shouldn't be licking your paw again. Trying to get that thing healed up, and you just go to open it up with your tongue every morning. Silly dog. Alright, I got blow my nose. Okay, Monkey King Bar now uses Demon Edge, Quarterstaff, and Javelin. Gives plus 52 damage and 10 attack speed, and the procs change from 60 pure damage to 100 magic. You know, I remember in the last patch, I was excited about Monkey King Bar being attack speed. I was like, this is great. But as I played with it more and more and thought, hey, should I buy Monkey King Bar? Almost always my decision was, no, I don't want Monkey King Bar. The reason being that a attack speed item that has a chance to proc pure damage just sucks, because anytime you have a crit or anytime you have minus armor, basically it doesn't synergize with anything. It doesn't synergize with anything ever. So it's just kind of like a crappy item that that's kind of difficult to make and difficult to combine. How big is this patch? We're gonna have to go fast. Okay, I've literally only got 2 hours. Maybe I should have waited until after my haircut. But I think 100 magic damage, at least you can stack it with like Veil and stuff like that. It's a raw damage item now. It's obviously not nearly as good as something like a Daedalus for damage, but we're still talking about, it should be a 75% chance to proc, so this does, it's actually a shitload of damage now I think about it. It's actually a shitload of damage now, because it does 52 damage, And it has 75 magic damage on average per hit, because the proc amount should still be the same. So 75 magic damage and 52 physical damage. So it does part magic, part physical. It's basically like how it used to be. And it has a little bit of attack speed in it. And the buildup is arguably easier. Demon Edge, Quarterstaff, Javelin. Like, this is like a really, really good Winter Wyvern item. Or, not Winter Wyvern. Wind Ranger item. It's a really good Pangolier item still. Arguably better. I guess it's not technically better. It's probably better. It's way better on Wind Ranger, though. Way better on Wind Ranger. Because now it goes from pure damage to magic, so it goes back to magic. So you could go like Veil Monkey King Bar every game now. And you can still fit in a Javelin first. It's like Javelin, maybe buy Demon Edge Quarterstaff or something like that. You can't buy like double Javelin to make it anymore, I guess, but I think that's alright. But I think this is a big increase. I mean, this is like over 100 damage on average. That's pretty incredible. Obviously, the magic is reduced, so it ends up being lower, like 50 or something. But I think this is a nice change, Monkey King Bar. Cost-wise, 1100. This is 900-ish, so 2k plus 22. So it's actually cheaper now. Is it really cheaper? Veil Wind Ranger is legit. I swear to God. You make fun of me, but I think it's legit. Maximize your power shot damage. Javelin procs deal more. It's not bad. It gives you armor. Gives you HP regen. If they have a counter to your evasion, you don't die in 3 hits. Because you actually have armor. I swear it's good. Maelstrom now uses Javelin instead of gloves and recipe. No longer gives plus 25 attack speed. Chain lightning damage increased from 120 to 170, and procs can no longer be evaded. And I assume... Okay, so at both levels they stay at 170. Attack speed slightly reduced from Mjolnir. So small... I guess it's technically a buff to Mjolnir overall. Definitely makes Maelstrom a lot better. I guess nobody's been really buying it. And Battle Fury's been so good that nobody even bothers with Maelstrom. Except for, like, there's still, like, range heroes that do it, like Sniper and stuff. I would say. It doesn't give you attack speed, but the Chain Lightning is more. But they can't evade the procs. I did not know that was a fact. So you could argue that Maelstrom's better against somebody like PA now. Which is kind of interesting. Battle Fury now requires a 300 gold recipe. This is actually pretty bad for Battle Fury purchasers. But the item was way too good for a lot of melee heroes. And 300 gold recipe is just going to be a pain in the ass for them to build it now. Because now they can't just buy everything from the secret shop. Because before you could just get like Quelling Blade, get the Perseverance, finish the Demon Edge. Now you actually have to bring a recipes. That could really delay the timing by a little bit. Blink Dagger cooldown increased by a second. I think that's fair. The item's still super, super good. But it just kind of, it sucks. Because the item's really fun to use. But I think it's fair. Building prioritization range increased from 7. Okay, so this means... that if you TP anywhere near a tower, it's almost always going to prioritize the tower over the creep. Just like 900 range is a little bit... I don't think that necessarily means you can TP that far away from it, but if you click anywhere within 900 units of a tower, it's almost always going to pick the tower. Dagon mana cost rescaled. Okay, so it's actually more expensive later. That's kind of cool. So this basically means it's like a buff to Dagon. Like most of the reason people don't buy it early, like one of the problems is that it just costs way too much mana. Even fitting it into your rotation doesn't work. With that said, I think a lot of supports could handle the mana, especially now that it's down to 120. You could maybe not justify it, but it's definitely better. Maybe you could even do it on a hero like Skywrath Mage or something, because you can amplify the damage that they deal. You could probably fit it in. I guess Pugna could always fit it in earlier, but not that you necessarily wanted to. You could, though. It's probably not terrible to rush a Dagon on Pugna. I mean, Slacks is happy. This is really good for Slacks. Big Slacks buff. And it being more expensive later on is... I don't think that big of a deal. If anything, it used to be less mana as you leveled it up, which for Tinkers, that was really good. But this is a big nerf to Tinker, I guess, for Dagon Tinkers. That they're not going to be able to cycle through Dagons as often. But I think that's okay, because there's not a lot of people that are like, yeah, I'm going to buy a Dagon and get a Dagon 5. It's like super late game situations with heroes that aren't Tinker, and it's Tinkers. So I think this is going to be fine. Force Staff now requires a Ring of Regeneration, staying Ring of Health. Total price is still the same. Mana cost increased to 100, and health regen reduced from 5 to 2. Pretty big force nerf. Pretty huge force nerf. So this is... for cores, basically, I think this is going to hurt them maybe the most. Supports almost always are going to have something like Tranquil Boots to cover their regen, but a lot of carries are relying on Hurricane Pike and Force Staff as their regen item. They don't really need that much else past that. It might be like a Helm of the Dominator or something like that. Yeah, that there was going to be Helm of the Dominator nerfs, most likely. But between Helm of the Dominator and Force Staff and Wand, those are like the most common carry regen items. The fact that the total price is still the same is like actually such a huge nerf. Because if the total price is still the same, that means that the recipe is still, it went up in cost. The recipe went from like 400 to like 700 or 800. So the item is just raw way worse. And this much regen reduction is going to add up so much in late game. That's like close to 10, it's not 10 regen, but it's like at least 5 or 6 for strength heroes. So there's a lot of heroes that are going to get really wrecked by this regen wise. So maybe force those heroes to have to buy like lifesteal more often or something like that. And the mana cost going up as well, I think is probably fine, because that means non-int heroes are going to be less able to use it. So if you have more mana problems, like basically mana regen and like mana stuff got overbuffed with the regen changes with the percentage scaling thing. So now everybody didn't really need that much. They could get by with like a drum and a aqualet. But now everybody doesn't need mana regen as much, so putting nerfs like this back into it, especially as they previously just buffed the hell out of int mana pools, is going to allow make the item slightly more focused towards people that will have the mana to cast it. 100 is a lot, is the other thing. That's a lot of mana. So, and if you get mana drain, for example, it's going to be much less likely that you can just trickle into 25 mana and get a Force Staff off, for example. So, and I think it's also okay that they nerfed both Blink and Force at the same time. If they only nerf one, then it makes the other one look a lot better. So I think this looks pretty fine to me. Helm of the Dominator, health regen decrease from 8 to 7. No longer grants +5 attack speed to the item holder. Bounty increase is for the neutral creep that you, or the creep that you grab. But those give you more gold, I think is good. It's basically a Midas now. It's kind of a shitload. But the regen decreased by 1 and 5 less attack speed to the item holder, I think is fine. So it actually doesn't benefit your hero much at all anymore. It's literally an aura item. Lincoln's Spheral stats reduced from 15 to 13. Magic Wand is basically just a nerf to the item, I guess. I haven't been watching that many pro games lately, but I feel like it's still purchased a lot on cores, probably. Not a lot, but it's definitely still sometimes. Magic Wand now requires a 150 gold recipe instead of a mango. It provides +3 to all stats instead of +2 to all stats, and 1.5 HP regen, and the max charge is increased from 70 to 20. So Magic Wand is also no longer a regen item, which is pretty... She's whining again, groaning. This is another big regen nerf. So now I'm thinking, like, man, how do people get regen now? The fact that this doesn't give you HP regen anymore means that a lot of heroes are going to be really missing out on health regen. Wand is harder to make. I think it's safe to say it's worse, because it's actually more expensive. It's going to cost you 450 gold now. So it costs you 450 gold. It gives you slightly more stats, but it has more charges, which is kind of cool. But I would say for carries, this is definitely worse. For supports, maybe better. This is kind of like another buff to supports, in my opinion. Because if cores have all this like inexpensive trickle regen stuff, like Magic Wand, that they could just buy and not have to commit to other regen items, and they can just focus on getting like battle fears and stuff faster. But now that it just doesn't give you that much and it's more expensive again, it's not super valuable cost wise. It's just not worth building super early, in my opinion. It is kind of cool to see Magic Stick to Magic Wand as double charges, though. That's kind of easy to remember. But I think I'm going to be a lot more picky about whether or not I purchase Magic Wand for now. For the future, and maybe earn is a little better because we need more regen now. On sale now from 100 to 70. The regen goes down, the consumed mana restore is reduced, and daily bonus here now gives 2 mangoes. Ooh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I was kind of wondering about this, like, because once they removed it from Wand, mangoes are like way worse, right? They're literally just a regen and mana restore. Daily bonus heroes now get 2, so that's 1.4 regen if you have the item slots. And the consumed mana is ultimately going up to 250 instead of 175. So it's better for these people. But if you're not a daily bonus hero picker, then it's worse. But it's still pretty good. You could buy 2 mangoes now for 140. And it's giving you 1.4. I mean, it's the same regen per gold. So that part's kind of cool. Can't buy 6 mango. You can buy 6 mangoes, but it's just not nearly as good as it used to be. Rest in peace, ogres. Duration increased by 10 seconds. I think that's fine. During phase, your base turn rate is improved to 1.0, the highest value. Can still be lowered by other effects. Active duration increased to 3 seconds, and the speed is reduced. So it's a little bit... This kind of seems like the counteractive to the way they just buffed it. The speed it gives you is less, but it lasts longer. Pretty sure it went the other way around last time they changed it. The turn rate thing is interesting. But I guess in a lot of cases, if you get ganked, for example, you usually pop phase boots as you run away. So an increase in your base turn rate is kind of cool. I don't know. I think that I don't know what the normal number is, so I can't really comment on that. But it says it can still be lowered by things like sticky napalm. But arguably, you could say phase boots should counter Bat Rider either way, because if it lowers your base turn rate, that means you're if you can still lower your base turn rate, it should still be better against napalm. So arguably, phase boots could work well if you're laning against a Bat Rider. Observer Ward Gold XP bounty rescaled from console 100 to grown over time with 100 plus 2 per minute gold and 50. So this is the new bounty runes, I guess, to de-ward Observer Wards. It must be a really good late game. So if you're talking 60 minutes in, this is like 200 gold each. And this is like 300 experience. That's a shitload, actually. De-warding Observer Wards is very, very worthwhile. Like, this is really going to justify buying gems, like ultra justify buying gems and sentry wards to de-ward. Is that how you just beat your opponents? Just don't place observers. The only downside to this is that you can now feed observer wards for a lot of gold to your opponents. It's a new way to grief. It's just buy the observer wards and plant them for your opponents to kill. But it's not. I mean, griefers are griefers. Ban them anyways, right? I guess it doesn't matter. Recipe cost increased by 200. That grants greater maim. 40% chance to reduce enemy hero movement speed by 26%, attack speed by 20. Did it have lesser maim before? Greater maim was from Heaven's Halberd, wasn't it? I can't remember. I guess it does the same maim as SNY, is what it does. It's probably what it does. So it does the exact same maim as SNY. So maybe it says like, hey, buying Halberd is okay, you can do this instead of going all the way for SNY. You can use it as a chase item, I guess. It's an okay buff to Halberd, I think. Yasha recipe cost increased by 200. This is actually pretty costly. So SNY is now 400 gold more expensive. It's a lot. Thank God they buffed Mantis Style. Mantis Style was so bad. So bad. So SNY gets 400 cost increased. Mantis Style gets reduced by 400. Basically, this is like a bouncing thing, right? They buff one, or one of them is better. Manta Style is either is better than Sanji Yasha, or Sanji Yasha is better than Manta. They buff the shit out of the one that's not good, and then they're like, oh, whoops, we made SNY too good. Let's now nerf Sanji Yasha and buff Manta Style again. I mean, I'm happy they're making Manta cheaper, but SNY's got to be like what? It's probably like 4,200 gold now, so they're only about 600 gold apart. So if you want the illusions again, it's probably way better. But SNY still does give you 16% movement speed base, which is incredible compared to the 8 of Manta Style. So mobility-wise, it's way better. But if you can get value out of your illusions, Manta is going to be good. Bounty Runes Gold increased by 0.5. Support Alk, it continues to be amazing. Chemical Rage Health Regen increased. Buffed late game, mid and late game, I guess. Still kind of weak early. I'm kind of worried about this. I feel like Alk is like close to being OP myself. Nerf to Ancient Apparition, damage is rescaled. It's far worse at level 1, basically. I think that's okay, because the hero was really good with level 1 Chilling Touch. I personally like getting multiple levels of this. This doesn't bother me too much, but his level 1 is definitely way worse. Arc Ward and Magnetic Field cooldown is heavily reduced. 20 seconds is like actually castable in normal situations. Maybe it's worth even getting 1 point early on now. It only works for heroes and buildings, though, so you can't use it in the laning stage to help last hits. I think this is a really nice change, actually, the 15 one. I just played Arc Warden like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and I tried the +3 flux duration, and I thought like, oh, this will be cool, this will make sense. But most of the time, it just doesn't feel that good, because it, like, by the time you're level 15, people have like 4 staffs and stuff, and magic immunity. So if you cast flux on people, half the time it's not even gonna work, or by the time they do, it is on them for like up to 9 seconds. They've been standing next to a creeper, or you're dead already, or something. I don't know. But increasing the cast range, that's like exactly what he needs as a hero, because he needs to be able to instantly prevent them from like cast flux on them. So now the cast range has got to be something crazy. It's got to be like 1200 range or something. I actually think this will make Arc Warden more viable as a spellcaster, like a spellcaster hybrid carry. Because that's like the big issue with him. He needs to like have a blink dagger usually just to be able to catch up and cast flux. And I certainly noticed that when I was playing him. I would be like chasing after people like, God, if I just casted flux on them 1 time, I could actually do my full combo and I'd be really limited in that way. So this might be really annoying. It doesn't necessarily help like Shadow Blade gank builds very much, but it definitely helps builds that don't do that, which I think is good because Arc Warden's builds have always just been, there's always been one that's like the most obviously best one at the time, and there never feels like there's much variety. So I encourage this. I think this is a nice change. I don't think we're going to see like support Arc Warden or anything like that anytime soon. I don't think that's really viable, but I would love to see more diversity in that hero. Just played Axe last night. It was a... I definitely realized he's a shit hero, but he's okay later, I guess. Base movement speed increased by 5. He actually did need this. I think he got hit pretty hard by that movement speed reduction. I was really slow. I think I was like 288 or something level 1. I didn't get a win-lace. So I think this movement speed increase is kind of needed. Battle Hunger, mana cost going down. Slax is going to be happy about this. With that said, if you level it up, it's not good because it's still going to be more mana expensive. But the ability is definitely great. I mean, it does like... Well, that's a lot of damage, actually. It does like almost 200 damage level 1 if they don't get the buff off on you. So it's also very good. I realized for pulling creeps when I pulled, you can't do that anymore. But when I was pulling, when I pulled creep waves last night, I could have cast this on one of the supports and then just had 12% extra movement. It's actually a very good skill in the laning stage, and it's maybe one place where he can become good. I think there's some potential for Axe being good in a dual lane, but he might need the right dual lane matchup, and I think he needs to buy armor items. He's got a lot of base regen, so if he gets like some early armor items somehow, I don't know if Ring of Protection's and I don't know if Ring of Protection and a Stout is enough, but something like that might be nice. And then that way he has so much regen, and he can trade better with like things like Battle Hunger. So this is what, a 50% damage increase from level 1 to level 2. It's not too bad. Whatever 24 times 12 is, that's like 260 damage or something. No, it's more than that. It's like 280 damage. 280 damage with a 15-second cooldown. It's pretty good if the full duration. Bat Rider base strength increased by 3, so that's like 48 damage or 48 strength health. Is that right? Math is not good. 36, 46, 54. There we go. 54 HP or HP increase. That's a pretty big amount. Bloodseeker, Bloodright, Ground Vision now increased to match the AoE of the spell. It doesn't? Oh, the vision it provides. Okay. I thought it was the animation. So the vision that it provides. Okay. So that means you can really scout trees well with it now. It's kind of like Kinetic Field, I guess. That Kinetic Field doesn't really show you the whole, it just shows you the center of the circle, kind of. Blood Rage cooldown reduced, so much better at level 1. I think the duration is... Oh, it scales up. So it's actually... Okay, so it's actually permanent at all levels now. At level 1, you have full uptime. At level 2, you have 2 seconds uptime. Level 3, you now have 4 seconds uptime. Level 5, you have 6 seconds. Yeah, so that's nice. 0 to... 4, 6. That makes sense. Okay, so just better at laning, basically. He should be a pretty good 1v1er now, I would argue, as long as the matchup isn't too terrible. Brewmaster Primal Split, Fire, Permanent Immolation damage increased. I think this is fine as a buff. I don't think it's a big deal, though, personally, but it's okay. Brewmaster still has, like, ultra late game problems where you, like, Brew Split and you can do stuff, but if they have BKBs, most often you're not going to be able to be as effective. I've played a Brewmaster recently, and I played against Brewmaster a few times, and it just kind of constantly feels like that. Your late game is not the greatest, and that's why it's hard to close games out, even though you can dominate so well early and mid. He's like a Space Creation off-lane team fighter. He's like so good at like laning and mid game and mid to late, but then like super late game, he's just not very good. Spider-Eye bounty reduced from 16 to 21 gold and 20 experience to 3 gold, 3 experience. Okay. The bounty reduced from 11 to 13 gold and 31 experience to 9 gold, 9 experience. Spider-Right is the weaker ones, I think. Spider-Ling. Maybe I have it backwards. Might have it backwards. Spider-Right armor reduced from 8 to 0. Spider-Ling armor 8 reduced from 8 to 0. The damage is reduced 19% less. And the spawn Spiderling mana cost reduced by 20, and the cooldown is worse at level 1. So they are far easier to kill by physical damage, which I think is actually super reasonable. This is actually I thought they were going to reduce the magic resistance when I started reading this, but I think this is a super reasonable change because they're really hard to kill by physical, and they're always clumped up anyway, so it's not like you can easily kill them all. So Dazzle is going to be really good against Spider-Rites now. if they clump up and they attack somebody that's in a creep wave, you can just bomb that wave and they're all going to die, I feel like. Assuming you have enough shadow words. But you'd probably only need like 2 or 3 points. But if you stand in a creep wave, you can one-shot all the spiders if you're not silenced, of course. So they're a pitiful amount of gold now, relatively. I think the spiderling is the main ones. I think the spiderites are the spawned ones. That would make sense, I think. Considering that if these are the only ones that are worth... If these were the primary ones, they would give like very little golden experience. But basically it means that Broodmother is going to more comfortably be able to throw spiders at his opponents and not super feed an advantage. And they're going to be easier to kill. So it's going to become more of like a micro thing, like getting used to just killing spiders and running spiders at people. They do a lot less damage, but they and they're basically fully countered by a stout shield now. So damage block is really good against spiderlings, but they give less. You can cast it easier, but it's slightly more mana. I think this is... We'll see how this is. But I think there's going to be a couple heroes that just work against it. Maybe something like a Slardar. He does AoE physical. It's not enough to like one-shot the spiders. You could probably kill the little ones. The little ones have like 200 HP, I think. So Slardar can probably like kill all the small ones with one crush. I don't know if there's other heroes that will be able to do that. I mean, Cleave... It shouldn't be the first thing you think about. Your Cleave technically does physical damage, but Cleave does physical armor ignoring damage. So it doesn't matter how much armor the spiders have, the Cleave is still going to deal the same damage regardless. The only difference is the spider you would attack directly, that guy is going to take more damage now. But the ones that it cleaves to is going to deal the same damage before as what it does now. So it would have to be something that does AoE physical, and that's why I thought Dazzle and Slardar. I'm not sure if there's a lot of other examples, but there are some other physical. Sight of Fist is a good point. Legion, no, because his AoE nuke is magic. Monkey King Stun is a good example. Monkey King Stun could probably kill the spiders now, because that does physical damage. It's based on how much damage you have. So Monkey King arguably can one-shot all the creeps, all the spiders now. Acid Spray is a good example. Bristle, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good example. DP ulti, yes, but it's not that great. Anchor Smash, really good example. Anchor Smash, Acid Spray, Bristleback, those are probably the best examples. Those are better ones than the ones I thought of, at least. Especially Tidehunter. Tidehunter wrecks Broodmother now. Like, absolutely wrecks Broodmother in lane. One Anchor Smash at level 4, and he's going to one-shot the little spiders. They do have better regen. They still have good regen, and Brood could buy, like, a Vlad's or something to give them more armor. They're going to be so much worse at pushing, too, because they can't just tank towers, for example. There's a lot of things. A lot of ways this is like a big buff and a big nerf. It's a playstyle difference, and it may hurt Broodmother in the long term, but I think it's a nice change to make because it should make the hero less boom or bust in how he has to play with spiders. It's either your spiders are not countered by their heroes and you can run them over, or they are countered by your heroes and your spiders don't do that much and you kind of just have to play bad all game. Hand of God, heal improved. I think this is fine. It's very, very small late game. Base armor increased by 1 for Crystal Maiden. I think that is a nice change considering how slow she is, how low HP she has. She'll be able to trade a little bit better. Definitely an area where she had issues. Freezing Field attack speed slow increased by 30. That's pretty good. Pretty good stuff. That way if you ulti somebody, they can't just right click you down as easily. Because her issue is like, you ulti and they're either going to stun you, and even if they don't have a stun, most of the time they just right-click you and kill you because you're behind. But now with having 1 armor and 30 more attack speed reduction against heroes that don't have stuns and are in melee range against you, you're not necessarily going to die right away, which is a really nice change. I think this is a cool way to buff her and make her more viable as a support with a good teamfight ultimate. Because her ultimate is just always so... It's either amazing or it's terrible. You either get a great ulti off or it's just bad. Darkseer, Wall of Replica, Illusions, and Incoming Damage. I was thinking about Wall in the last couple weeks because I've had a couple Darkseers on my teams. And I'm just like, man, Wall just sucks. The Illusions incoming damage reduced, so the illusions that spawn take far less damage now. The damage they deal has gone up. And the Wall of Replica now auto-attacks the hero it made the illusion of, but they can still be controlled. Okay, I like this. I felt like a lot of times what would happen, and this is a nice way to change the skill to make it feel better. You would basically do Vacuum Wall, and you'd create all these illusions, and then they'd be there like attacking creeps that were spawned. So it's like the illusions would be created, but it didn't matter. It was just like, okay, you Vacuum Wall. It would be nice because you vacuumed more than and slowed them for a little bit, but it just didn't do that much. But if now when you spawn illusions, if they're attacking the hero that they're spawned from, now it's actually going to do something. They're actually going to do damage. They take less damage than they did before. It feels like Vacuum Wall is going to actually matter now. So now it just doesn't cost, you don't have to like actually micro things. It's like you just spawn the illusions and they would die pretty fast and they just didn't do anything. Just wall just sucked, man. It just always felt bad to me. I really like the fact that they're auto attacking the hero that that made the illusion of. It's just automatically going to work. It's going to be straightforward. There's going to be no micro issues. It won't be like an illusion spawns. That person walks like an inch away and then a creep is there, so it starts attacking the creep. Like it's gonna follow its target. It's gonna be like more like TB's reflection, which I think is nice. All right, Dark Willow, Bedlam damage reduced in the late game. I think that's completely reasonable. That was like the one place where Dark Willow was just kind of stupid, where if she was at level 18, she could just solo kill some heroes she probably shouldn't have been able to. But I think early game she's still fine. I think at level 6 she's fine. Like Bedlam level 1 is not that big of a deal, but I think Bedlam 2 maybe sometimes if the Dark Willow's ahead, but Bedlam level 3 was really, really high damaging, and I think this is more reasonable. With that said, they also increased the rotation duration by 0.3 seconds. So okay, so I think what the second part means is how long it takes for the Bedlam thing to circle your hero fully. So the reason this is important is because if it goes slower now, that means that it will spend more time attacking, because it still only lasts for 4 seconds. This means it'll do basically 2 full rotations and then a little bit more. So if it goes slower, that means that if you are not central, because basically the only way to maximize the Bedlam damage is you have to stand right on top of the hero. That way the Bedlam can always attack the person right on top of you. But if you're behind the person or to the side of the person, that means if it goes slower, in some ways it's better because they will shoot. This is probably not the worth talking about because it's only a small increase, but they will spend more time in the place that you want them to be. With that said, if they're on the wrong side of you, the Bedlam is going to spend more time being away from them, slightly. It's kind of like a very small thing, but it feels like it doesn't matter for you if you're central, but if you're using it correctly, it's good, and if you're using it badly, it can be really bad. Not really bad, but slightly more bad and slightly worse. I think that's my analyzation of the second lane. Curse Crown no longer grants vision after it stuns. I think that's fine. That's completely reasonable. That way you can't just cast Curse Crown and follow up on somebody. And level 25 talent change from +1 terrorize duration to 1.5. I think that's fine because her terrorize. We can't see the icon, unfortunately. I was hoping for a Dark Willow pop up here, but I guess it would have been too much info. Nobody ever grabbed that one because the other one's 200 attack speed, and the terrorize duration was already like 6 seconds, so getting 1 more second felt kind of bad. But I think this is more than fine. Like if you look at the changes here, I think these are very. I think this nerf is big for late game Dark Willow, like especially core Dark Willow. But for your average Dark Willow, I think this is very small nerf, and maybe for the level 2, it's like a moderate nerf. And then Curse Crown Vision is not that big of a deal, but it's probably huge because if you ever cast Curse Crown on somebody and they get out of the fight, then now you would always be able to follow up. You know they're stunned and you can follow up. Now you're not necessarily going to know. If they juke into the trees, for example, you're not necessarily going to know exactly where they are. So I think this is fair. And so basically she was slightly nerfed, but not massively. I think this is fairly appropriate. She was played in the pro scene. I haven't watched drafts in a bit, so I'm not sure how popular she was. But I think my impression was that she was good, but not amazing. Fixed poison touch effective area covered, not scaling properly with cast range bonuses. Okay. I've been playing Dazzle a little bit lately. I think he is pretty good right now. I've had a couple games on him where like we're doing okay, and then all of a sudden we just win because we can just go high ground with like Grave and Shadow Wave, and you can make these Death Ball team fights just kind of end. So I'm kind of a fan of Dazzle right now. I actually think he's okay. And I do kind of like poise. I always do a dual off lane. I've had lanes where we either completely poop on him or I get a little bit overly aggressive and I die too many times. But both times it seems to work okay. I usually go Poison Touch 1, Shadow Wave 2, Poison Touch 3, and then usually Shadow Wave 4 or a Grave there, depending. Maybe I should do something like 1-1-1, but getting the second Poison Touch feels really good because the damage increases massively to 24 per second. And the duration goes up by 1 as well, which gives you more time to chase. I think he's pretty popular. Death Prophet base regen reduced. I think that's completely fine. Base damage increased by 3 for Earthshaker. Ember Spirit Flame Guard magical damage absorbed rescaled. So it's a lot better at level 1. The level 1 Flame Guard was pretty shitty. I think this is more than fine, because literally any hero that has magic damage can deal 50 damage with 1 skill point. So it's like Flame Guard was actually worthless at level 1, unless your opponents didn't have any magic damage at all. But now 80 is like this nice threshold where if they have enough damage, if their level 1 skill happens to do enough, then it's fine. So let's take, for example, I'm curious what it takes for a 75 damage skill with Spell Amp. There's no way it's going to be enough, right? Like there's no way. It basically, because if most people have no more than like 1.5% spell amp level 1, so there's no way that a 75 damage nuke is going to do enough. But you basically just have to know how much does their level 1 spell do. If it's less than 80, then Flame Guard can work, because you can get the full duration and deal damage with it. But I think this is a necessary buff by all means, and it's still just a good late game. It just makes him slightly better early. And there's a lot of mids. There's not very many mids I feel like that are really, really good mid right now. It feels like people always pick the same ones. It's like Viper or Shadow Fiend and Queen of Pain and crap like that. And OD, it's just obnoxious to play against the same good mid heroes. So I think allowing more diversity would be nice. Searing Chain's duration rescaled. It is pretty nice. Pretty nice rescaling. Now it does damage in 0.5 second intervals. So now the numbers make more sense. Before they were like really weird how they had to do the damage to make sure it actually scaled up gently. And it does that still. It just scales a little bit better. 70 damage, 70 damage, 70 damage all the way to max. And does slightly more at level 1. Small buff there. Actually pretty huge like Ember Spirit level 1, level 2 buff actually. More Flame Guard and slightly more damage, but a half second more of duration is really nice. Really nice Ember Spirit buffs here for the level 1, level 2. So he doesn't have to wait till like level 3 to do anything. He can actually like trade hits at level 1 and do stuff. In some ways, what you could argue this is a Ember Spirit dual lane is more possible. There's a lot of heroes that just simply aren't very viable because they do suck so bad at level 1 and level 2 that it takes them too long, or they need solo experience to become viable. But if you have abilities like this that actually last a decent amount of time, then they can actually feel more valuable in the laning stage. So I think that's why there's changes like this being made. Enigma being buffed, Malefice stun duration rescaled, so it's just better at level 1. This is actually a pretty big difference. It's almost the same as level 2 Malefice. A lot of times, Malefice, you can't really get more than 2 points in the early laning stage, so something like 0.6 is certainly valuable, as is 0.4. It doesn't feel like, wow, why did I bother to spend mana on that, for example. Now you're spending less. It's only 100 to throw the stun out, which is technically 1.2 second stun. And the cooldown is worse, so that's the one negative that I got. But I think that's fine, because you're not going to cast it that often. It's not like you're just going to spam Malefice. It's like you have to use it to try to actually catch an opponent. Fine changes. And again, it's the same late game. So slightly better laning stage would make Enigma slightly better as a potential dual lane hero. Faces Void Chronosphere cooldown. It would be really dirty to do an Enigma Lich lane. That would be really, really dirty. Funny, but evil. Chronosphere cooldown increased. Poor Faces Voids. Very small amount. A little bit in the late game. I think this is alright. You can still buy Ags if you want to lower the cooldown to 60. But Void has been pretty popular just because he is generally a strong laning hero in the sense that he is difficult to punish and kill. But a shitty laning hero in that he doesn't do anything. But in terms of getting Chronosphere kills, Chronosphere is always good. And with the Battle Fury build, you can ensure that you have pretty much the same farm as anybody else that's a hard carry. So that's why Void is kind of just valuable right now. You get the Battle Fury, you buy the correct items like a Shadow Blade or a Mask of Manus, and then you transition. So once people figured out the build, what the correct build and the way to play Face of Void was, he became popular again. Instead of like we want to play him but he doesn't work out. Invoke mana cost reduced by 20. Invoker's got some big mana buffs if you think about it. Between like the mana regen and the interiors gained and the increased pool. He has less HP though, so maybe that's why. And everybody also has magic resistance because of strength, so maybe another reason that he is now worse off. Tether can now target spell immune allies. Beautiful. Before it was... Wait, couldn't it do that before? Didn't they just change that? I swear they just changed that. I thought because I remember talking about that you could tether somebody that was BKB. That if the tether, oh, I think it was like tether doesn't break, or the tether break distance was bigger, or something like that. I don't remember. Maybe I was thinking about a context, but I guess you can now cast it on somebody if they're already BKB'd. The cast point changed to actually 0 instead of having a tiny cast point. Probably just did it because they're like, what's the big deal? Why not just make it 0? Maybe there was some like thing that affected it here. Tether no longer, I guess arguably if there's an AoE stun that's already on the ground, like an ice path, maybe you might be able to cast. I guess it doesn't matter though, because the stun would also interrupt you and stop you from moving, if I'm not mistaken. But maybe I'm wrong here. Tether no longer applies slow and impact. Okay, so tether basically is just tether now. I think this is fine to remove that aspect of the skill. I mean, when this first came out, it used to stun people. It just fully stunned. If you were tethered to somebody and somebody walked through the tether, they get stunned. It was really good. And then they changed it to a slow, and then nobody levels it up for the slow because it's all about the healing. So now it just doesn't slow anymore. So let's see how they change spirits. Spirits now apply a slow. I think this makes more sense because you're focused on spirits, and to focus on both tether and spirits is kind of hard. Now applies a 20, 40, 60, 80% movement slow on impact for 0.3 seconds. They now have 2 fixed positions they go to, 700 and 100. So it's no longer granular with toggles, but just a single press action. Spirits in and out is just one ability now. Alternates the direction, has a 1.5 second cooldown. Same hotkey as Spirit's ability. So I'll finish it before I talk about it, I guess. Spirit's creep damage increased from 8 to 26 to 10 to 34, so better at farming. The mana cost is better for the hero. The Spirit's collision AoE increased, so that means it's easier to hit people. And the explosion AoE damage is, the explosion damage AoE, so the area that it affects when it hits somebody is increased. So this is kind of cool. Changed the Spirit's max range, removed it, and it's experience talent. I like the experience talent. That's cool. The other one is like 60 damage, I think. So now it's going to be easier for IO to get like level 15 or higher. I like that because IOs do have a lot of trouble getting up to level 25. It feels like almost impossible most of the time. And then 25 talent change from tether stuns to -60 relocate cooldown, which is pretty good. I think relocate is like a... I'm going to have to check because I think this is pretty impactful. It was 90. I thought it was 60, but they've nerfed it a lot over time. So that means they can get down to a 30-second relocate cooldown, which is really good. I don't necessarily think that IO can get there. Is this going to scale on me? Yep, I fucking knew it. Hate that bug. Should really send Valve an email, please. It's probably just me, though, that encounters this more or less. I think this is overall a good change. Basically, they've made spirits easier to play, which is important because IO is not a very played hero, even though he is popular because he's iconic and stuff. But using the spirits was hard because you'd have to time it. You'd have to like press, okay, I want them to be more expanded. You press expand, and then as soon as they're the correct size, you have to press it again to make it stop expanding. If you press the contract, then they would start contracting. So it was always this thing where it'd go in or out, in or out. And you'd have to stop it when it got the right size. But now there's only 2 fixed positions. You either have melee range, 100, or you have 700, the wide range. So it's going to be easier in teamfights to think like, I want maximum, and then you play around that, or I want minimum. Now you can still make it go in or out, because it's still going to slowly expand, I think. It doesn't necessarily say. I guess we'd have to demo the hero. I'll just check it really quick, because I'm kind of curious. I don't think it's worse, personally, so far. It's my... So, they start... Yeah, so they do still adjust. It's just so much easier. Like, look how many less hotkeys there are. This alone looks beautiful. Look, there's only 4 icons. It's not all this extra shit that you have to deal with. So it's just easier. Melee, range. Melee, range. And let's see the speed I can do it. So, close range. Long range, close range. So basically, I can just press it routinely to make it go in and out. So if I actually want to catch somebody and I don't know where they are, I can just adjust the size a little bit. Was that lowering their attack speed? So it should only lower the movement speed of heroes. But it's just easier to play. 4 hotkeys. That's what Valve is focusing on, and I think it's the right thing to do. Yeah, it doesn't lower their... only lowers the movement speed of enemy heroes. And I assume... so if you hit them 5 in a row, it basically perma-slows them, which is cool. And then... let's mess this up again. Permaslows has good slow. It's not based on tether, which is kind of stupid. I think this is a really nice change to the hero. Makes him probably more fun to play. Makes him easier to play. He's a little bit less control over Spirit Chase. You kind of have to either be at the perfect positioning or not. And if you're in melee range, it's just going to blow up right away anyways. But I think this is okay. Better mana cost early on. So you probably feels more like you can actually fight in the lane. Like he's actually going to be a really good laning hero now. But it's not just going to be because you can regen yourself and your allies. Whereas before, that's basically all it was. It was like, congratulations, you can give your ally a shitload of health, which was fun, but that was the only... it was so reliant on like your ally, kind of. It's still a little bit reliant on your ally, but it feels like you can go to a lane with Io and be like, I'm going to carry here. You're not going to be like, I need them to play correctly, and I sit back and heal them up, kind of, which is what it was before. I think this is cool. You could honestly even argue that maybe in spirits at level 2 and 3 is worthwhile now, just because the slow goes up, and the slow becomes 40% per hit. So that's like 1.5 seconds of 40% slow. It's not terrible. Maybe not. Maybe you still need overcharge for sure, but I don't play IO that often. Almost never. But this is encouraging. I think I might play him a little bit more. I haven't tried out the new one yet with Tether. I've played against it a bunch, but pretty much always win against it. But it's hard to play out correctly. So I encourage it. You get spirits on 1 and 3 since that Tether nerf. Really? But the Tether nerf is so... or the Tether's so good right now, I feel like, at level 1. Just because it makes you so fast. If you're tethered to somebody that's fast. Maybe that's because people do cheesy, stupid shit, though. Where they get somebody with the boots, and then they just... walk with them the whole time. I'm not sure. To be faster. I don't know what his base damage is. It's pretty bad. His armor's really awful. I don't know if I argue with getting spirits level 1, but... Leshrac, Lightning Storm mana cost has increased very slightly, and much more late game, but I think that's fine. Lich level 20 talent buffed. That's going to be harder now. I actually really like the cast range on Lich. I think cast range on Lich is very valuable. He's got like some of the best talents in the game, I swear to God. He actually does. Lich has like... I'm pretty sure Lich has some of the best talents in the game. I actually like every single one of his talents. I like all 10, or all 8. The only one that I'm a little not into is the health one, but the health one is also really good. It's almost always what you should get. I actually like all of Lich's perks. All of his talent trees. Guess that's one way to make a sort of boring hero interesting. Really good in ability draft. Lich is like one of the best heroes you can get in ability draft because of his perks, his talent trees. All very good. 180 GPM is really good though. That's a lot of gold. But level 20 is pretty late, but you can also power level a little bit. Cast range is also really good, especially if you get like Frost Blast cooldown, because you can just perma-slow somebody from safety, but you kind of need cast range to make that safe. Let's move on to Lycan. Summon Wolves health increased. More at level 1. It's fine. And the damage... level 1 health Wolves felt kind of crappy, so I think it's fine they're getting buffed here. They're same... actually slightly better late game, but not that much. Marana Leap. But this 50 is also buffed up by his passive, so arguably this is like a slight to moderate buff to the wolf damage. It's fine. Marana Leap buff, speed, buff duration increased. I think that's fine. The attack speed is rescaled, so it's better at level 1. Also fine. Moonlight Shadow now grants 15% movement speed, bonus while invisible. Cool. You could argue this is a nice buff to the Marana perk that makes Moonlight Shadow more permanent. Minus 80 Moonlight Shadow cooldown is basically 15 seconds, 15 out of 20 uptime. So it's pretty much always on. And if it gives you 15% movement speed while you're invisible, that's pretty good for team fights. So I'd argue this is a pretty big buff to Marana team fights. Maybe not big, but moderate. A moderate buff to Marana team fighting. I think 15% movement speed is so much. That's an S and Y. So finding team fights and escaping in crucial moments when you go invisible for a little bit can make a big difference. It's like the difference when Slark has his ultimate and he gets in safety or something. It like gets in a tree for a second, and all of a sudden he's way faster, and then he just gets away from you, is what it feels like. Okay, that's like actually 30 to 50. It's a shitload. It's not that much. It's only 15, but certainly a nice little change in Mirana. I think Mirana's generally pretty crappy right now. As a core, she's fine, but as anything other than the core, she's pretty crappy right now. Primal Spring, mana cost reduced. I think this is a nice and needed change to the hero. I think Monk King is fucking awful as a support. He's really bad as a support, almost always. Unless you basically need to put yourself in a position where you can zone somebody, and that does not happen very often because he has no armor at level 1. So you kind of need to be able to like give your carry the first couple last hits mid, and then let that transition. And that works best if you have like a Shadow Fiend, because then you can let your Shadow Fiend get like 5 last hits and then leave, and then he's had a good time. He's like, cool, I've got 10 bonus damage that I can now last hit better with. But there are not a lot of cases where Monkey King is an effective roaming hero, unless you're against a solo offlaner and you get your passive and you have an Orb of Venom and he chooses not to hit you back very effectively. But most of the time, Monkey King just like does not trade well early. So I think reducing the mana cost of Primal Spring is the least that they could do to make him a less shitty early game hero. I don't know, man. I haven't tried him as a support in a while, but I'm pretty sure it's still awful. I wish the movement speed slow for the first perk was better. I think that's what I want. I want the movement speed slow for level 1 Primal Spring to be far better than it currently is. I think that would improve the hero, personally. Because it's really difficult to land it. It takes a long time to channel it up. Maybe they decrease the channel time or something. But the level 1 Primal Spring, I think they'll get there eventually, but I think that's what he needs for him to be a good support. They need to buff the shit out of Primal Spring, basically. Because if you're a core Monkey King, you're probably not going to max that ability out. You're going to get a mix of the passive and the stun, because it's all based on your right click and your farming, so you get items. But if they make Primal Spring actually reasonable, like actually good to skill early on as a hero, and I think it's getting there, then I think Monkey King can be a good support. And I kind of want him to be, but he just feels too one-dimensional right now, to me. Morphling Adaptive Strike talent now is a 300 cast range buffer for the secondary targets. That's good, because there's the double Adaptive Strike. Oops, excuse me, 3 times Adaptive Strike. Plus 3, that hits 4 people? Is that what that means? Right? Oh yeah, they just buffed it, yeah. Am I right? Yeah, Primal Spring is good for farming. But if you have something like a Battle Fury, it's not really that needed anyways. But it is definitely very good for like pushing lanes. As a support, he can like split push and stuff like that with Primal Spring. But I don't know if it's kind of hard to make it justified, I guess, is what it feels like most of the time. So level 10 talent, they buffed the waveform range. I actually do kind of like the waveform range personally. I think it's very good. But I haven't gotten it in a very long time. I used to get it right when Morphling, when I discovered he was strong. But just because it made it easier to get E-Blade kills from longer distance. But 10 agility just increases your whole hero by so much. I feel like what they need to do is remove the 10 agility perk. Turn it into something else. Because something like agility on Morphling just feels too good to not get. Yeah, things like these are really good. They kind of need this for maybe Skywrath Mage is what I do. If Skywrath Mage is in this list, I would say Skywrath Mage is going to get a cast range buffer for the other Arcane Bolts. Because I noticed that they've been putting that in to fix other heroes that cast multiples, but I haven't seen it on him yet. Plus 3 multi-shot is actually fucking ridiculous. This is like getting to be, like this is what they basically have to do. They have to make these multi-shot things so good because they're bad. They have to make them so good. Like, there just has to be so many things shot out that you're like, you know what? It's gonna hit somebody good. It's gonna hit somebody good. Doesn't matter how many creeps there are. I'm gonna blow 3 of them away and damage a hero. Then it's gonna, because 2 waveform charges is way too good to pass up, especially because you can attack during the waveform, which makes waveforms way too good. And you can escape. You can double waveform a creep wave, no matter how much HP it has, more or less. But plus 3 multi-shot, if you're sieging or something, it's starting to sound really good. Necrophos getting the shittiest buff ever. For everybody just loses here. Necrophos players are not happy. I guess it's okay. It's okay late game. But it sucks for everybody that plays. I played a lot of Necro games last week, like 3, I think. And Necro just felt bad all the time, mostly. In the laning stage, he just feels like shit until you get a Reaper's kill, then you're like, cool. But in the laning stage, Necro does not feel very good. He has he's got terrible armor. He's got pretty bad HP. His animation sucks. His projectile sucks. Against anybody that's like a good laner, he's usually pretty outlaned, is what it felt like. Maybe I'm just really bad at mid, but it was kind of a rough life. But this is 45 seconds late game is pretty good, actually, if you can add 45 seconds respawn. And the cooldown is still huge at 120. With that said, the crazy shit now is that Ags, this is a buff to Necro Ags, in my opinion, is what this is. I mean, it's a buff to Necro off the base, because obviously everybody's going to cast Reaper Scythe, but Necro Ags is a 25-second cooldown. And you're adding 45 seconds of respawn time. So you could do that to a lot of people. And like, I don't think you're going to be able to cast 2 in the same team fight, but there's a good chance that if you ulti somebody and continue pushing and going high ground, and then you can ulti another person later, 25 seconds later, that is going to be really tough to play against. Because even if they buy back, that's still 45 extra seconds added to them. Bloodlust on self now grants you bonus attack speed. Okay, that's cool. Alright, interesting. I like this change. It's a buff to carry Ogre is one thing. That said, it's only if you level it up. But basically you're getting bonus, an extra 10 per level past the first is what you're getting. When I played carry Ogre or mid Ogre or offlane Ogre or whatever, I actually do like maxing Fire Blast second, not Bloodlust. I thought Bloodlust was not very worth it because it only gives you about 10 attack speed per extra level. That did not feel worth it compared to the chance of multicasting on like actual damage with Fire Blast. So this is going to make the right click more tempting. But I would love to see Core Ogre. I'm ready, guys. I'm ready for some the Core Ogre meta, but I don't know if we're there yet. And it is a lot more attack speed, but I don't know if it's enough to make it worth it. He has really good carry perks, except for his 10. His 10 isn't very good, but his 15 is 90 damage or 300 health. You go the 90 damage. And at... How does this change with Bloodlust, with the Bloodlust perk? Because he has a Bloodlust perk, that 40 extra Bloodlust attack speed. 40 strength is also really good, though. I guess it's worse now because it doesn't give as much as an integral, but it still gives him magic resistance. The 25 is also a really hard decision. Ogre has really good perks, too. I think Ogre also has extremely good perks, like Lich. Except for that 10 one, I really don't like. I almost always get the cast range myself. I'm not a big fan of the 60 GPM. Yeah, but I don't think it's going to matter that much to like support ogres. I mean, they should be still right-clicking a little bit, and maybe they could argue that I'm going to get the 90 damage every time now instead of 300 health, but a lot of times you need the health. I don't know. Omni Knight base armor reduced by 1. I think that's fine because he just trades too well. Purification cooldown increased again. Ooh. Poor Omni Knight, man. Omni Knight as a laner just got so wrecked. He used to have like an 8-second cooldown on Purify all the time, and now it's at 14 at level 1. Rough, man. 14 seconds. And he has 1 less armor, so any heals that you actually put on your hero are far less valuable than they used to be. What's his base armor? And he just got 1 armor reduced from the previous patch too. So now he actually has 3.4 armor. This guy used to have like 5 armor at level 1. He still has really good base health, and he still has really good damage, I guess, and his strength gain is really good. His agility gain is not terrible, but it sucks to be Omni Knight, man. So basically, Omni is not going to be able to win 1v1 matchups as much. I think it's time that he got all these nerfs. I think it's completely fine. There's going to be a long period of Omni Knight nerfs, and then maybe someday he'll have a rekindling, but he's probably still valuable. Arcane Orb. Fix Arcane Orb not using mana if it misses on the target. Huh. Okay. Arcane Orb mana cost increased. I think this is fine. This is costly because it means that your ability to have enough mana is going to be less likely. But because of the increase of mana that all heroes got, it was a, what, 25% increase? I think this is basically just going to match that, more or less. Because this is what, it's 40 more. It's 25% more. So basically they increased, they basically brought OD's mana cost from Arcane Orb in accordance with the increased mana pool that he has from gaining Int. So this is actually a balancer. You could look at it as a nerf, but it's more like they buffed him too much in the last patch, and now they're kind of bringing that into equalization. And I think not using mana if it misses on the target is completely fair as well. I don't know, that's probably like one of those bugs, one of those like quality of life bugs that exist that are worth fixing if the hero needs a nerf. So heroes like PA are going to be happier. Anybody with any evasion is going to be happier because of this. Because then if he misses, he loses mana. I guess he still has a chance to gain the mana. Does that mean if you attack and miss, that you can also gain mana from it, while also not losing mana? If so, that was a small positive to the hero, actually. It would be like a chance to gain mana without losing anything, even though you're missing your target, which is probably bad. Not sure. Pangolier getting a lot of changes. Rolling Thunder no longer gets cancelled when renewed or disabled. Okay. The cooldown is now higher at all levels, still always at 70. So this is basically a buff. I assume this basically means that if you get ensnared, that you're not instantly cancelled. You can't just cancel Rolling Thunder with an ensnare. Disabled probably means things like Chronosphere, for example. So it'll just roll in place instead. So it doesn't get just instantly... I mean, if you probably get like doomed or something, it probably still gets stopped, I imagine. I'm sure there's a Reddit thread that shows like how do you deal with Rolling Thunder now? Swashbuckle mana cost increased by the tiniest amount. This is like a super inconsequential nerf in my opinion. Not that his mana cost is great, or his mana is great in the early game, and he does need a lot of mana regen, but Shield Crash cooldown increased from at early game, which is fine. Fixed Shield Crash counting spell immune hero, so it doesn't anymore. So you used to get magic or you used to get damage reduction from spell immune. And at level 10, the talent was reduced. So this nerf here, in combination with this one, is probably going to have a noticeable impact on how well Pango can split push. But I would say overall, this is still... I mean, maybe this one's more impactful. Because with the cooldown being so high now, you're not able to like almost always keep a reduction up. But, I mean, sort of buffs to the hero, I guess. I guess I would need to know how many spells still work against him. Can he still be hooked to interrupt Rolling Thunder? Can he still be... What was the other thing? Clockwork? Hookshot? Does Hookshot still stop it? I mean, he's definitely going to farm slower because this costs more mana, and he doesn't get as much mana gain here. But I feel like this is not that significant. I mean, this is like a ring of it's like a Sage's Mask. It's a Sage's Mask worth of regen that you don't get for sure. It's definitely going to matter. And you're not going to be able to split push quite as greedily, but I think you can make that up with like a clarity or two. I feel like if you just bring yourself a clarity potion when you're doing this split pushing, it's going to cover everything anyways. So, it's a nerf, but it's not like the end of the world. I think this one is a bigger nerf. That you can't shield crash as much in the laning stage. He's already really bad at the laning stage. Not really bad, but bad. Moderately useless. And Rolling Thunder, longer cooldown late game is kind of important. But I'd say with this included, if Rolling Thunder doesn't get completely disabled by ensnares, I think ultimately this feels like a buff to the hero, especially for the average player. Puck level 20 talent from -5 when you rift cooldown to -8. That was basically going to happen because the Illusory Orb's distance and speed thing was way too good. I think that puts the silence at a 5-second cooldown though. Yeah, it's 13 -8. Yeah, 5-second cooldown. So it can silence for 3 seconds out of 5. If you get an Octarine Core, we're talking 3.75. Oh, is that right? Yeah, 3.75 cooldown. So that would be 3 second silence out of 3.75 seconds, which is pretty amazing. I think that perk is now becoming super valuable. 5 seconds before was good. Did I miss it? There. God, I still have a long ways to go. I have about 20 minutes. I have about like 30 minutes till I have to leave. I don't know what you're saying, NA Math. Did I not just get it right? I literally said 5. What are you talking about? How are you guys making fun of me right now? Did I not do my math correctly? I said 3.75 if I get an Octarine. That's if I have a 5-second cooldown, and it goes down to, if you lose 25%, 3.75. That's actually my biggest trigger. If somebody says NA Math to make fun of me doing math, but they're the ones that do the math wrong, that makes me real upset. I'm like, you are wrong, you know? But this is potentially very good. Against the right heroes, even if you don't have an Octarine, 3 out of 5 seconds is great. You can use that just to nuke constantly, and it makes a nice sound too. I'm totally down with the Winnie Rift being cast more often. Pudge base damage increased by 7. This is very smart. I love this. Okay. Ooh, big movement speed nerf. Ooh. Okay, so here's the problem with Pudge. Pudge has amazing HP. He now has extremely good damage, but his problem is he has no armor and he has no movement speed. So as a hero, he's really bad at the laning stage in that sense, that he can't fight people head on. Like at level 1, Pudge is going to lose to almost every hero, even using Rot. For the obvious reason being that Rot makes you take just as much damage as you're dealing. You have slightly more magic resistance because you're a strength hero or whatever. But he's just really bad at fighting people level 1. He's really bad at it. It just doesn't work. The benefit was that Rot basically is a perma-slow, that it doesn't go away, so that over long distances, you have tons of disable, basically, compared to most heroes. He had the most disable compared to almost all heroes at level 1. Now it being 11%, it is far worse. 11% is really low. But this was part of the problem with him. It was like you couldn't buff any of those other aspects of him because Rot was just too good at level 1. So he had to be this hero that was like only good at long chases. He was only good in that way. He's not good at trading hits. He's not good at like dual laning. He couldn't do any of that. He's really good at tri-laning because then it would be a tri-lane versus the one hero and you'd chase the offlaner all the way back to his base. Really good at that. But in any other situation, unless he hooks somebody out of position at like level 2, he just sucks. So I actually think this is a smart buff, a smart nerf to give him. He doesn't necessarily need it right now, but I think it's a good nerf because it's going to allow them to actually do something with the hero at level 1. Like increase his trading ability early on. And like 11% is to the point where it's like, it's not amazing. It's basically, it's worse than an Orb of Venom now, which is still not bad. Orb of Venom alone is already used to chase people. You could arguably get an Orb of Venom with Pudge now, just because now you don't have enough slow, but you have enough damage. And now you can actually win trades. Like, this feels almost better, I guess. It's probably not better ultimately, but base damage increase to 7 is good as well because you could arguably lane him now too. Like Pudge mid might be back, honestly. Because level 1 you're not going to raw chase people. You can last hit much better with 7 damage. Like Pudge might be a more viable core now. You shouldn't probably mid because he doesn't farm super well. And he also kind of has to turn into like a ganking playstyle. But something like offlane Pudge might become more possible. At least like he needs more like dueling potential. And he didn't really have very much of that before. He just got traded out too easy. But 7 damage increase will really help that. Yeah, and if you attack now while rot chasing somebody, they're probably going to get away from you. If you have an Orb of Venom, probably not. But and either way, as he levels up, it becomes good anyway. So it's getting extra rot levels is even more beneficial because it's just getting more and more slow every time. 7 more per level. Pugna base armor increased by 1. Level 15 talent is +2 Netherward health to +3. I think that's fine. The Nether Blast talent is really good, so makes sense to get that. Base armor increased by 1 is kind of interesting. What's his base armor now? 2.6. It was pretty low before, I guess. 1.6 is pretty bad. Let's mess this up. Queen of Pain, Sonic Wave damage increased. 30 damage at level, 30 damage at all levels. It's fine. Scepter damage increased by even more. 40. 15, 40, and 35. Is that real? So it's worse late game. It doesn't increase by as much. No. I was way off on the first number, that's why. 35, 40, 35. There's so many numbers that I got confused. I looked at 325 and then I thought 340 is what I was thinking. That's why I said 15. 5 is 3, so... No, I'm wrong. It's 45. So 45, 40, 35. Okay, so it goes down. That's the pattern. I was trying to see the pattern. It was really hard to see. All right, I deserve an NA math. Go ahead, guys. So it's better early. So if you rush an Ags, it is less terrible than it used to be. With that said, it is not much. It's a pretty big fucking increase, honestly. This is a pretty big fucking increase. Because if you buy Ags pre-level 12 now, you're going from like 290 pure to 370. That's a huge difference from what it was in the previous patch. And if without buying Ags, it's still a 50 damage increase. It's not a lot. 50 pure damage is like marginally better, but maybe it's worth it. 370 pure is huge. And it's like a 25-second cooldown or something. 35, 40-second cooldown. Might be worth getting. Probably not, though, because Quap is not really, like, she needs utility more than she needs more damage, but with the right heroes, it could work out really well. I would like to see Quap Bags come back. I think it'd be a fun thing. Ricky, Tricks of the Trade, now attacks at slower pace. Nerfed from this to this. I'm curious why they said nerfed, but it was very, like, maybe they had to really dumb this one down for all the brand new players that don't understand Dota really well, and they really need to make sure, like, did Ricky get nerfed? Oh, he did. Okay, we're good. It says it. It's basically worse at all levels. I think this is fine. It was a little bit too good. It was kind of like, it was like, that was the only good thing about Ricky, basically, was Tricks of the Trade at that point. It's like everything else about him, it was like, okay, he's invisible, but his ulti is really good. So his ultimate is worse now. You may have to actually play Ricky for his... If they didn't nerf Tricks of the Trade, they would have had to basically let the other parts of Ricky stay shitty. So if they nerf Tricks of the Trade just enough that the skill is still kind of good, then they can go back to buffing like his base damage and things like that to make the hero actually okay and multifaceted. But right now Ricky is like kind of just shitty at all stages, except for his ultimate. And even then, I feel like whenever I play against Ricky, I don't even think I lose anymore. It's because people got better at playing against him, I think, compared to that first week. The first week it was really bad. Ricky would just get out of control all the time. Rubik Telekinesis lift duration rescaled. Ooh, that's a pretty big Rubik nerf here. That's a lot of stun duration loss. 1.1 seconds, but you still throw people like 375 units. So I mean, it's still good, but definitely gonna want 2 skill points early on, I think. 0.4 seconds increase per level. Like in a lot of ways, it just feels like I'm still probably going to get... I don't play Rubik that often. I'd still probably get 1 null field pre like level 8 or something. Maybe I'd get it at level 8, but I think I don't think I'd ever go like 2 telekinesis and max null field. I'd probably just max telekinesis relatively fast. Skill actually does get a lot of benefits from leveling it up. Cast ranges, lift durations, AoE stun durations. There's a lot of reasons. Sand King Caustic Finale no longer triggers when a unit is denied. Okay, that's really smart. That's a really, really smart change. Sand King was arguably too good right now, and the fact that if he hits a creep at all, it's just going to blow up no matter what, it was really stupid. But now if you just have better last hitting potential, then if you're not winning the lane, basically, then the Caustic Finale is still going to suck. But if you have lane control, and he's just kind of like coming up and hitting creeps, then you can actually contest a little bit. I think this is a really nice change. Gives carries more control over laning against the Sand King. Doesn't give him this like guaranteed matchup advantage. Shadow Demon strength growth increased. I think this is a nice change just because the hero does usually want to sit behind people and keep them alive, and not having as much HP is a little bit hard, but I don't think this is going to make a difference to the win rate for Shadow Demon. The skills are just a little bit too hard to use generally. Shadow Fiend level 10 talent reduced from 10% to 8. I think that's fine, and 15 talent reduced from 40 to 35. This is fine. These 2 perks were way too good. Hero's still going to be more than fine. Like, still going to lane really well, but Shadow Fiend's really strong right now. I'm just sick of, like, every time that I pick a mid hero, people just pick Shadow Fiend. It's so annoying. And I have to lane against, like, such a multifaceted hero that's difficult to lane against. It's annoying. Fixed Aftershock area not covering. It's the same thing with the Dazzle thing. I guess the scaling wasn't working well. The cone. Silencer Glaive's a wisdom buff. I think this is fine. The Silencer I played the other day is pretty bad. I don't think I played it very well, but 25% level 1 is really good. It's a big difference. Should make Silencer Core a little bit more viable. Global Silence duration increased by 0.5 early, so you could more arguably keep Global Silence level 1. I think it might be worthwhile. 0.75 seconds is good. Just all of Silencer's other abilities are really good to level up, I feel like, so not sure. Level 15 talent GPM increase. I think that's valuable. It used to be 60, then it was 90, now it's 120. I think that's reasonable. Much better for supports. The +2 intelligence steal is a really good perk, actually. If you start getting an advantage, you can get a lot of int really fast. But 120 GPM as a support is super, super reasonable. I think I could really... That could really convince me to play Silencer Support Moth instead, even if the game gets a little bit rough, that I can always still have a buttload of GPM later. Slark base HP regen increased. Shadow Dance movement speed bonus increased. Oh, that's why the numbers were so big, because they got buffed. 5 at each level. Now it's 10 per level. It's fine. Better chasing in those crucial moments where you're invis. I think that's fair. I don't think these are particularly unreasonable. I mean, this is really nice roaming. It's going to be easier for you to cross the map rapidly. So maybe like the Shadowblade ganks are going to feel more dangerous late game. But I think that's okay, because really the most dangerous part of Slark is like the snowballing period. Oh, there's an update apparently. The snowballing period where you get like a Shadowblade and then you start getting kills. So, and that's not really going to, this change isn't really going to affect it that much. It's more like the ultra late game Slark stuff, which I think is fine. Given the movement speed, I don't care that much. And you can also more likely use Shadow Dance to actually escape, just because you're getting 50% movement speed. Which, let's be honest, he's going to cap out anyways with all this movement speed. Specter, Spectral Dagger mana cost rescaled to be less early on, and Haunt Illusion damage increases with level, so it's pretty good. Might make the Haunt damage perk better. I think there's one that's like 25, increases the damage by something, plus 40%. So that means at some point these could do 100%. Some kind of like a Specter illusion right click, like agility item right click build could be really good in my opinion. I don't think Haunt Illusions get they won't get like an SNY proc, but some kind of like movement speed with agility item thing could work pretty well, I think. Maybe not with Diffusal Blade necessarily, because illusions don't burn nearly as much as they used to, but yeah, agility items on Spectre I think could at some point become the way to play the hero. Because it'd give you a lot of armor. I guess if they have a lot of physical damage, I feel like, and maybe even like minus armor builds, I feel like that would be the way to go. Just build a lot of agility items, get your armor up. So maybe against something like, I mean, you're not probably going to want to play Spectre against like a TB, but I think there's some potential there for a build. Spirit Breaker's Another Strike knockback now pushes the enemy twice the distance. Okay. That's the ultimate. I think that's fine. Greater bash movement speed bonus increased. Hell yeah, dude. Very well memed. So very slight movement speed increase whenever he gets a bash. That's when he charges through somebody, he gets movement speed from the greater bash. And it's a, you know, that's the meme. Nice meme. And tiny buff, meme buff. Storm Spirit level 15 talent increased from 300 to 400 health. I think that's fair. The static remnant damage perk was good. Really helped you farm faster, and 400 health I think is, it's a lot, but Storm is usually killed when he's killed. You know, he's either out of mana and he's killed, or he's chainstone and he's killed. So, or silenced and he's dead anyways, and the health isn't going to make that big of a difference. So I think it's nice that that could be there and allow you to go like Orchid into another utility item instead of having to buy necessarily Bloodstone. You're still going to want to get Bloodstone, but maybe like this health perk would allow you to not have to go Bloodstone, because you would just have so much health. Maybe you can go like Orchid Shivas or something, you know, and get the health perk, is my example. Sven cleave distance increased, same as Battle Fury, and the cleaving radius increased. It was actually worse than Battle Fury. I didn't know that. That's not true though. It did like a much better cleave. Base HP regen reduced. Get wrecked Terrorblade. Reflection illusions now disappear when the reflection slow debuff is removed. Does that mean no? Does that mean status resistance was not making them go away? Or does that mean they would last too long? I'm not sure. Is this dispellable? Praise the Lord. I didn't know this was dispellable. That's why they did this. It's dispellable. There's a solution, guys. You can get rid of this. The stupid ability doesn't just permanently stay on you now. Thank the Lord. Fuck this skill. I hate it. I was playing Undying the other day. I turned on my ultimate, so I had a Flesh Golem, and then Terrorblade casts Reflection on me, and then I'm fucking Flesh Golemed by my own Flesh Golem, and I can't do anything about it. All I can do is be like, I'm gonna wait till he casts Reflection, and then I'm gonna cast my ultimate. It's like the dumbest shit ever. It's like the easiest fucking counter. Reflection is so garbage. If I buy a Vlad's, if I buy an AC, if I buy a Shiva's Guard, I fuck myself every time against Terrorblade. Every fucking time. And then when he hits level 20, it's on a freaking 6-second cooldown anyways. It's the dumbest shit ever. I fucking hate this skill. It's way too good. The auras you get from it, the damage. Like, I cast Flesh Golem, and all of a sudden, I am permanently slowed for 5.5 seconds for like 25%, and I'm amplifying all damage I take by 25 because I turn on my Flesh Golem. It's like the dumbest shit ever. And now I can just buy an Aether Line. I can buy Lotus Orb and be like, fuck you, Reflection. He casts Reflection. I instantly Lotus Orb myself, and it's over. Or I can pop BKB or something. It's over. Reflection's gone. I'm no longer doing Flesh Golem. I'm no longer giving Vlads or AC to my whole opponents. Thank God. Thank God. This needed to happen. I didn't realize it was dispellable before. But it was probably just the slow that was dispellable. You could remove the slow from yourself, but your illusion would stay. But now it disappears when the slow goes away. Thank God. Good change, great change to fix it. Good way to fix a skill and make it not so bullshit and just always there. There's always a solution against it now. It isn't just a, you're fucked and it's permanent uptime, have fun. That's great. Sunder minimum HP rescaled from 25% to 35 to 25. So that means that if you sunder somebody at level 1, let's say Terrorblade has 1 HP, and he sunders somebody, that means that they will only go to 35% of their max HP instead of 25. So doing, not that anybody does this, but like Sunder Dagons are less good basically. But if he sunders somebody at very low HP, they aren't like screwed as much. An extra 10% HP is maybe 2 more right clicks from Terrorblade. Like by himself, he's not gonna be able to like sunder right click you twice and you'll die. It's like pretty much every time they should be able to run away if the whole team is there to slow Terrorblade to prevent him from chasing you. And the cast range Beerus, this was actually really needed. I was blown, like I've seen a couple Sunders the last couple days where the range was just like insane. I think these are all great nerfs against Terrorblade. This one was like needed regardless of the skill kind of. I think this one is good, and certainly this one is very good as well. That's a lot of laning profitability that Terrorblade would get from the regen. Alright, I gotta hurry up. I should probably leave within 15 minutes. We're almost done. Timbersaw, Whirling Death. The Whirling Death attribute reduction now considers bonus attributes instead of only base. Alright. Huge buff to Whirling Death. Huge buff to Whirling Death. Whirling Death attribute reduction lowered from 15 to 13. Now, the perk at 25 is valuable. It's finally here. So the reason that perk sucked was because it only applied to base. So if you're reducing, and I think the 15 to 13 is fine. Totally fine. Because people are going to buy in their base attribute. Pretty much always. They will buy into it. I think this is easily going to be offset by that. It's slightly worse than the laning stage. The only way it's worse, basically, is against like heroes that don't buy their items. So, for example, like an Axe who doesn't get any strength except for like a magic wand or his strength perk at 10. Whirling Death is slightly worse against those heroes. But against any core, basically any mid hero, any safe lane hero, this is probably more stat benefit. And it actually means his first skill is just better against anybody that isn't a strength hero. Because now if like, for example, like against an OD or something, if you can get the Whirling Death, if you can get a Whirling Death on an OD and he has like 200 int, you're actually reducing his intelligence by like 26. If you get the perk on top of that, you're reducing it by like, what was it, 8%? So it's 21 then. So that'd be like 44 int or something. That's actually really good. That's a huge amount of reduction. I think this is a really nice change. I feel like they probably wanted to do this for a while, but maybe not. But I think it's a good idea. I think it's a nice way to. The only downside of this is that it's not very consistent. Like a lot of times when people do like attribute reductions, it's almost always base. But the fact that it also does bonus is kind of like a new territory that they maybe didn't want to cross into because they wanted to keep stuff consistent. But I think it's a nice way to make Whirling Death make more sense. They either needed to like change the stat loss thing or let it cross into this new territory. Problem with Timber at level 25 is his damage output. That's not true. He's fine. He does shitloads of damage at all stages, especially if you're tempoed ahead of them. You can always buy Aghanim Scepter. There's lots of options. There's plenty of options, in my opinion. I mean, like ultra late game, and when people have buttloads of health, yeah, sure, but you can always buy like Dagons or something. Aim for supports first. Wait till somebody's stunned, double chakram them. Like it does so much damage late game. You do 100 per pass, so 200 pure minimum, but we're talking more like 250 per chakram. If you get Ags, that's 500 pure on a 8 second cooldown. This is 220 pure, and this is potentially 250. So that's like, he basically does like 1,000 pure damage every 8 seconds. It's more like 750. 220, 250. That's 470 plus 200, so 670 minimum per 8 seconds. Pure damage. In an AoE. How can you say that damage is bad? That's not bad. It's not easy to use his skills, but if you're good at it, or people are stunned, or you're fighting in the right place, he can be really effective, damage-wise. Tiny tree grab, area damage reduced. I think this is a nice way to fix the skill, because it's still good for the bonus damage, but the amount of AoE splash damage you did was just kind of silly. You could just get a last hit and harass people really heavily. Now it's more like you mostly are just using each attack to get one thing done. You're getting one last hit or one deny. It doesn't give you like a last hit and harassing your opponent kind of a thing. I think this is a nice change. Still makes the hero good. Still makes tree grab level 1 fine because you're trading hits better with people. But it doesn't also harass your opponent while getting last hits. Leech Seed duration increased. I think Tree did need a buff. He's a little bit weak, but he can work. I think Meteor Hammer's core on him, or at least extremely good, because you can do things like Overgrowth Meteor Hammers. 1 extra pulse is really good though. This is a very high damaging skill. 7 pulses. That means that his Leech Seed does even more damage. 420 damage. Which makes a lot of sense. Leech Seed for the pot smokers. Secret shout out to weed smokers, guys. And the duration also goes up, which is pretty big. 5 seconds of... That's only 28% movement speed slow, I guess, but I like Leech Seed a lot. I think it's a good skill. Sometimes I feel like cast range on this skill would make a big difference, but his other skills don't need cast range, so it kind of feels redundant. It wouldn't be worth getting, but actually I really like Leech Seed myself. It's kind of a cool ability design, even though it's stolen from Pokemon. That's okay though. Not that Dota doesn't steal things from other media sources, or at least did in the past. Dota 1. I didn't mean that like Valve necessarily, Blizzard, but you know, Dota 1 itself had a lot of things from other games. Like Phantom Lancer is based on Kimari from Final Fantasy X, I think. Lena Inverse is the obvious one too. Ice Shard's duration reduced. I think this is a nice nerf. Tusk, I fucking hate playing against Tusk lately. 4 seconds, that's reasonable. 7 seconds is way too good. I mean, they super nerfed the cooldown level 1, which is fair, but I think the shard duration being 4 is more than fair. Like, Tusk is just so good in laning with dual lanes because you just show up somewhere and if somebody's out of position, they're just dead. Because they're basically fissure blocked. It's like the easiest fissure block in the world. And 7 seconds it was just way too good with an Orb of Venom. People are screwed if they get caught and they have anywhere near like weak survivability. Tusk could guarantee kills so often. Love this change. Very nice change. This should make him less painful in the early game. Still going to be good late game, or later in the game, but it's going to be less easier for him to like roam super effectively. Snowball speed reduced by a little bit too. I think that's fine too. Just reducing his level 1, level 2. Frozen Sigil no longer provides flying vision, ground only now. Okay, so it's far worse for scouting in trees. Will still be useful around the Roche Pit, but you'll have to be actually in the Roche Pit. So basically, for it to get vision, you're going to also be able to see him too, is how the Sigil will work. So it'll be easier to kill, most likely. Or at least Tusks will be more likely to walk in a position where they can see. And it's going to be harder to scout. I have like 8 to 10 minutes. Let's see how many heroes are left. Alright, let's go fast. Firestorm. Firestorm overtime percentage. Base damage no longer affects Roche on Ancients. This needed to happen a while ago, and it's finally in. Underload was too good. Dark Rift mana cost goes up. It is more expensive, but I don't think it's a big deal. I think this is more than fair, just because it gives you another way to beat him. You could drain his mana, and then he can't cast it. Because Dark Rift is now being used really well by the pros, and it's really annoying to watch sometimes when they'll just Dark Rift and get out every time. This needed to change though, because he could just push lanes all the time and then go to Roche and Roche really well. 4% per second for like 7 seconds. No, it's like 8. For like 8 seconds, Roche would take 4% of his max HP. That shit was way too good. Undying Tombstone. Oh, buffed to Undying, dude. I've been playing Undying. Tombstone spawn interval improved, so it's better at all levels. It's basically shifted down. It's a bonus Tombstone level. Actually, I kind of felt like that was needed actually, because when I was playing, I've been trying out max decay builds. I'll go like decay tomb, decay Tomb. I'll go like 202, and then I'll max decay with like 1 soul rip and skip ulti until like level 7 or something, or level 8. And I do feel like the zombie spawn rate was a little bit weak. Starting at 4, I think is going to be a lot more reasonable. 2 points is equivalent to a 3-point tombstone now, in terms of, because getting zombies to spawn is really the more important thing than the attacks to destroy usually, or the deathless threshold, because I just need more damage out of it usually. I think this is fine. And these changes, the decay duration, I've been trying that one out as well. Haven't really noticed a big difference. I haven't ended up fitting in Ags into my build yet, so maybe that's part of the reason. But if you're playing support, Tombstone on Death is too hard to skip. If you're playing any Undying, 30 Tombstone zombie damage is incredible. I really recommend you guys get that one every time. It's so good. But 6 Tombstone attacks is also insane. That's 14 attacks per Tombstone. That is a shitload. I think that is becoming so good that it is certainly something that's going to be hard to say no to now. And especially with the spawn interval improved at level 4 for all levels, Tombstones are about to become obnoxious, which I'm excited for. I'm a big fan of Undying right now. Base armor increased by 2 for Ursa. That is a cool change. I'd love to play him out. Laning stage, he's going to feel a lot better. I want to see what his base armor is now. Holy shit. I want to play Ursa right now, but I have to go get my haircut. Maybe afterwards. 8.6 is awesome, awesome armor. And this is going to matter a lot in like mid-game too, because his agility gain is not that amazing. So, especially because he's an agility hero. So he's going to be in a much better position because of this. He's also got a 16 agility perk, so it gets better kind of. But I think this is definitely a place where Ursa always kind of hurts, is not having that much physical survivability. Once his ultimate runs out, he kind of just dies. And against like anybody that's a true right-click hero, he usually gets out-damaged unless he gets like tons and tons of stacks on them. Venomancer Poison Nova duration increased by another 2 seconds. Okay. Visage Grave Chill duration reduced. I think that's fine. Grave Chill is a little too good with Grave Chill bats. Warlock Golem. How much we got? We got like 6 more heroes. I got 5 minutes. Okay. Warlock. Chaotic Offering Golem health increased. Better late game. The permanent immolation DPS is increased, so better late game. I think these are all fair. Golems are a little bit too easy to kill from like Battle Furies and ODs and like things that like carries the late game could honestly deal with these golems a little bit too simply, in my opinion. If you do get an Ags, they're still going to get split, so they will have less health. But now the Ags golems have more health than the previous regular golems, if that makes sense. The previous golems would have 1500 HP if you got an Ags. Now they have 2250. So this is a pretty big difference, a pretty big change. Basically, the golem should be sticking around, which I think is a nice change. Because if you do get your Warlock to 18, damn it, your golem shouldn't just die instantly, because it's going to make your hero suck. Weaver health regen increased by a lot. This is a nice buff because his base stats were just so bad that in a dual lane, Weaver is not very good at level 1, level 2. I think health regen is a nice way to make it more fair, because he doesn't have much armor anyways. So if he does take harassment, he's going to better be able to stand up to that and not necessarily have to buy like a Ring of Health or necessarily need a bottle as much. Swarm attack damage has increased. I think this is completely fine too. Let the Swarm do a little bit more damage. It's already pretty annoying to deal with and all, but Weaver shouldn't be as focused maybe on having to right-click himself, perhaps. And definitely means maxing the Swarm out second is going to be even more valuable now because they attack more frequently. Power shot damage increased for 50 damage now at level 4. Focus fire attack speed increased by 50. And it always fires on the target unless you're targeting another target or press stop and are not moving. Always fires on the target unless you are attacking another target or press stop. So this is nice because sometimes what would happen would be you'd cast focus fire and you'd accidentally... This is good and bad. I'd have to test it out, I guess, but... Always fires on the target unless you are attacking another target or you press stop and are not moving. So if I press stop and I am moving, focus fire probably attacks him. So the reason this kind of sucks is Blade Mail is a better counter against Wind Ranger. When people use Blade Mail against me when I'm playing Wind Ranger with focus fire, I press stop and my hero stops attacking until I right click him again. But now if I press stop and I'm stop moving, then it's not good, then I won't attack. But if I press stop and I'm moving, I'm going to keep attacking them. So Blade Mail is probably better against Wind Ranger if somebody focus fires you. So that's kind of tough, and I would argue is bad, but it should be easier to use. I guess for a new Wind Ranger player, Focus Fire is really easy to mess up. But now that I've played Wind Ranger enough times and I'm used to it, I think it's fine the way it is, I guess. But it's probably better that it feels consistent for normal players. And I think this is probably safer, because sometimes it would be like, I'd focus fire somebody and I'd be moving and they'd be by the tower and maybe I right click the tower accidentally and then I went to attack the tower. And the problem was that my hero wouldn't auto focus fire. They wouldn't go back to attacking the enemy hero until I would right click the hero again. So there was like little fractions of seconds, maybe like half a second, maybe 1 second. And for weaker players, maybe it's 2 seconds where they don't realize, why am I not attacking? And they don't realize they have to right click the enemy hero. And some of the issue, it also can matter, because if I'm focus fire diving a tower, for example, and I accidentally do that, then I have to right click the hero, which is going to draw a tower aggro to me again. And then that means I'm more likely to be attacked by tower and die in this dive. So I think ultimately this should be better. This is better for Wind Rangers for sure. It's just worse against Blade Mills. So against Blade Mills, if you're focus firing somebody, you have to press stop and stand still. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And I'm also curious how this works with Invis. If you focus fire somebody but use Wind Run and then you have the invisibility perk and you become invisible, then you will also stop attacking. I assume that will still be the case here for Invis, but I'd be interested to see if yeah, I'm looking at the time. It's okay. We can probably make it work. Winter Wyvern, Winter's Curse duration increased at buff at the first level in case the Moonhead was in any way going to stop playing this hero. So more duration, the attack speed goes down, but it lasts longer, which I think is ultimately a buff to the hero. It's going to be harder to, like, shitty Winter's Curses are probably less effective, but there's more time of people hitting, and as a result, you can buy more time for your team with the disable if you need it. So I think this is fine. This is, like, overall a buff to the skill, most likely. Witch Doctor Maledict cooldown increased. Whew! Oh, poor Witch Doctor. That's a big-ass nerf. I think it's fair, though. Level 1 Maledict is so good. You just slap that baby on somebody, you right-click them until they get blown up. But, I don't know, I'd prefer the lost health burst damage to be nerfed before this kind of cooldown nerf goes in. That is a heavy nerf. With that said, though, Maledict sucks to play against. Like, if I'm playing a carry and I get Maledicted, I'm just like, man, life sucks. I have to disengage now. You just have to walk away from the fight. You just have to get out. It feels really bad. And honestly, realistically, Witch Doctors can still just max Maledict first. They can go 2-0-4. It's not like you have to go like 2. It's not like you have to go like 3-3 or 2-2 or something. Like, just max Maledict. You don't really need that many cask bounces, arguably, if Maledict's your breadwinner, and you can still max it out. It's still a good skill. But this got pretty nerfed. Like, laning stage wise, Witch Doctor is going to be way worse now at level 1, level 2, which is where Witch Doctor was really good. Wraithfire Blast mana cost rescaled. Wow, that's a big buff. Wraithfire Blast cooldown rescaled. Okay, so far less mana. Level 1 support Wraith King is far more viable. But it just has a longer cooldown, but I think that is by far a worthy trade-off. For carry Wraith Kings, I don't necessarily want to max Wraithfire Blast. This is a little bit of a downer, but I think it's still really good because 110 mana, even if you have like a level 2 Wraithfire Blast at level 7, you're saving so much mana now. You can probably cast Wraithfire Blast constantly if you get like Power Treads or something. Just except for the whole mana, the cooldown thing. It's harder to use Soul Ring to abuse it, but again, maybe you just don't need to because it costs less. I think this is good. This is, I think, a nice change. This is a really nice change. The Wraithfire Blast DPS are just so fucking useless all the time. Because you're like, okay, I'm casting Wraithfire Blast and it's dealing 80 more magic damage, which is fine. But nobody would ever get that. Like, if you're playing support Wraith King, you probably still want the attack speed anyways, because in your downtime, or even when you are attacking heroes, you want more attack speed to get crits and stuff. Like, nobody was ever going to be like, yeah, I'm going to get this perk just so my one skill does more damage. But adding utility to it is good, because now as a Wraith King, if I'm really worried about them being just faster than me all the time, even though I have carry items, maybe I'm going to consider getting more slow duration, because now the slow duration is going to last for 3.5 seconds after the stun. I think that's pretty valuable. Because I think the slow lasts for, what, 2 seconds after the... Do they take damage per second the whole time they're stunned? I don't know, I've always been confused. It's kind of like Slark, the same thing. You stun them and they're slowed afterwards, I believe. But I think this is a cool change. Makes Wraith King better at the laning stage. You just can't cast 2 stuns as rapidly, which could be costly, but still makes the skill good. 95 mana is super easy. And more slow, I think I'm still going to take attack speed almost always on Wraith King, but for like a support Wraith King, this is super valuable to get, in my opinion. It's far better disabled than you had before, especially once it's maxed out. 2 seconds of stun and 3.5 seconds of 20% slow. That's okay. That's okay for chasing. Zeus talent's level 15 talent increased from 1% to 1. Yeah, that talent sucked. Over 40 movement speed. But 1.5 is getting kind of respectable when his passive is 10. So, okay. That is going to be it. I have to get out of here, guys. Thanks for watching. I will try some of these heroes out soon. Don't think I'm going to be streaming later today. I have some other stuff to work on, but I will be streaming other days. Is it more damage? Oh, have they put them together? You might be right. Let's go try it really quick. As I should have left. You might be right, though. It might deal more damage. I want to see that again. One, two. Okay, it does do 2. I thought I saw 3. Okay, does 2 damage per seconds. Shit, how much damage did that do? I really should have been paying attention. Total damage 247. Okay, and then we're gonna do this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. Confirmed. Increases your damage and increases the slow. It's basically a buff. 48, 48, 3, 4. Okay. Yeah, full buff. So not only does it, it's basically the same perk that it was before, but it also gives more slow, which is actually is really what he needed. It's just it's a better version of what the talent was before. It adds the damage more spread out, which isn't necessarily negative, but increasing the slow is super valuable here. So great, nice change, great perk change. Might be valuable to get if you're carry Wraith King. But realistically, you probably want the attack speed. Alright, gotta go. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good day. Bye.